seeking the truth never gets old. Introducing June's Journey, the free-to-play mobile game that will immerse you in a thrilling murder mystery. Join June Parker as she uncovers hidden objects and clues to solve her sister's death in a beautifully illustrated world set in the Roaring '20s. With new chapters added every week, the excitement never ends. Download June's Journey now on your Android or iOS device, or play on PC through Facebook Games.
This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. One of the obstacles you may face as you look for work might be yourself. You may believe, for example, that you can't network well. In fact, networking is a skill that anyone can learn. Michelle Schafer is here to talk about how to reframe your limiting beliefs in your job search. She's a certified professional coach and a workshop facilitator. Michelle helps you develop a job search strategy so you can find energizing work for companies you're excited to work with. She joins us from Ottawa, Canada. Well, let's jump right into it, Michelle, and let's start by talking about how to recognize limiting beliefs. What are limiting beliefs exactly?
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic to talk about because limiting beliefs are things that stand in our way. And when we're talking about a job search, these are things that will prevent us from taking action. So a limiting belief is an assumption, it's a judgment that we have about an activity or something that we're engaged in that will stand as a roadblock. So as we're talking about networking, limiting beliefs can actually stand in the way of networking success because an individual may come to the table thinking about, past networking experiences, and maybe they had a bad networking experience. So therefore they don't want to reach out to people again. They might think that, I'm more introverted and networking is more of an extroverted activity. So I'm not going to reach out and have these conversations. Or they might think that people are just too busy and therefore I'm not going to take action. So, these limiting beliefs, these ways of thinking prevent us from moving forward in our job search, and it can actually prevent candidates from identifying opportunities that could be a really good fit for them down the road.
Does everybody have limiting beliefs, Michelle?
It's interesting. In the work that I do with clients, I notice that limiting beliefs are quite common, and they tend to strike, especially with clients who might be new to a city, so they don't feel like they have any network, or they're new to a country. But these limiting beliefs I find are really key for, individuals who have actually navigated a job search before, because they have these assumptions about how networking can work for them. So I have some clients that I work with that say, I've reached out to people and I never heard back. So therefore networking doesn't work and I'm not going to do it now that I'm looking for work again. So I do see that limiting beliefs are quite common and aren't isolated to a particular demographic or particular individual.
What can happen, Michelle, if you don't recognize or address your limiting beliefs, not only in a job search, but in your career?
For sure. You can really stay stuck. And I see this with some clients that I work with, that they come to me because they're frustrated and they're discouraged. Their job search is not moving forward. And when I talk to them about the kinds of things that they're doing to look for work, I recognize and I help them understand that networking and building relationships comprises about 80% of the job search activities to find your next job. And when I talk to them about what they're doing, perhaps they are just looking on job boards, they are just, trying to isolate online opportunities, but they're missing out on so many other opportunities. So, this is something that is so common. And if you don't address the fact that you are having some limiting beliefs and actually take some steps to reframe them into more positive thinking, your mindset stays the same. And of course, a negative mindset does not serve you as well in a job search. A positive mindset can really help you move forward. And one of the things that I try to help clients understand where they're feeling very stuck is, networking is just a big word that means research through conversation. It means having conversations with others and building relationships. And the reality is we do that every day. Maybe we're shopping and we start talking to somebody who's in line behind us. Maybe, the parents, we talk to parents at our child's school and we start to build a relationship with them. We actually have those conversations all the time. The only difference with networking is these are conversations that are really targeted to your job search and helping people understand what you're looking for.
In your practice, you see common limiting beliefs, and the top three I know that you've shared in your articles about this topic are that people are too busy to help with a job search, that you can't reach out to top people inside an organization, or people might think they don't have a network. I'd like to walk through each of those three common limiting beliefs. The first one is that others are too busy to help with your job search. Why do people believe this, Michelle?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. And I'd say it's probably the number one limiting belief that I see in people that I work with, which is, people have this, this thought that, oh, I can't ask somebody else for help. I can't ask to have a coffee with them. I can't ask to have a conversation with them because this person probably has all kinds of priorities. They're probably very busy. I don't need to add to their plate. And it's really interesting because, of course, I'm Canadian, and it's a well-known, fact that, Canadians can be quite polite, but this is something that I see everywhere with a lot of individuals that I work with. There's this incredible hesitation to reach out because they just don't want to bother somebody. They don't want to add to all of the priorities that they already have. And really what that person is doing is they're assuming that the other person is too busy to say yes. So even before they ask the question, they're assuming that the person's going to say, oh no, sorry, I won't have time for you. And that's why that's a limiting belief, because it really stands in the way of that person even asking in the first place. And the reality is people really do want to help. In fact, the vast majority of people do want to help. It's just that they really like to know how they can help. And so when we bring that forward in our ask for a conversation, it can make it really easy for the person to say yes.
A second common limiting belief that you found in your practice is that job seekers think they can't reach out to top people inside an organization, maybe, for example, the CEO at a company. Is this true, Michelle?
It very much is true. And I'll admit, when I was doing a lot of networking, looking for work, I had this own limiting belief myself. There seems to be a huge hesitation to reaching out to people who are more senior, partly because of the limiting belief that I just mentioned, that people would be too busy. And this really applies to individuals who are senior in an organization. So as a job search candidate, somebody who's looking for a job, they believe that, oh, the person that I'm reaching out to is the CEO or a senior vice president or an executive director of a charitable organization. Well, that person has got so much on their plate. They are leading the organization. Why on earth would they want to meet with somebody like me? They don't know who I am. I'm certainly at a much lower level than they are. This is the narrative. This is the story that people create for themselves, which prevents them from asking that person in the first place. And again, the reality is, even a CEO, this person has very likely had to network for work themselves, and they are human. They might have a big fancy title beside their name, but they're still an individual who has had to engage in this kind of activity. And so, oftentimes people do want to help. People who are senior in an organization do want to help as well. But if we don't ask, we don't get. So, taking those steps forward to ask can be the best thing that a candidate can do to find their next job.
The third of the most common limiting beliefs that you have found among job seekers is that they think they don't have a network. And you touched on this a moment ago, but tell us, Michelle, why do people believe this?
Yes, and this one is mystifying to me. And the reason for that is, as humans, we interact with people all the time, like oftentimes every day, certainly every week. We go and we have our hair done by a stylist. We drop our kids off at school and we talk to other parents. We, have a new neighbor that's moved in beside us. Maybe we have a conversation with them. The reality is that we are not an island unto ourselves. We don't operate in a silo. We do have people all around us that we interact with. Sometimes we receive services from these individuals and we need to have conversations with them. So, the key here is, to help people understand that your network is actually bigger than you think it is. It includes all of those people that are in our circle that we interact with on a regular basis. And, a friend of mine in a networking workshop that I attended years ago had a saying, look through your network versus at your network, because, sometimes we can just look at our network, meaning the people that we're immediately connected to, and discount all those people and think none of those people can help us. But the reality is each one of us knows hundreds of people. In a lot of cases, any one of those hundreds of people could be very helpful in a job search. Again, if we don't ask, we don't get, and recognizing that there are lots of people around us for help. And the key is to ask for help. In a job search, we really need to engage with other people in order to find our next job.
Well, this is terrific, Michelle. I want to pause here and take a break. And when we come back in the second segment, let's talk about how to reframe these 3 common limiting beliefs and apply that knowledge to a job search. So stay with us. When we return, Michelle Schafer will continue to share her advice on how to reframe your limiting beliefs when you look for work.
Got some good news for your ears. More of the good stuff is coming up. And even better news for your hair. The best hair care is at Sephora. They've got all kinds of products for every kind of hair, from brands like Amika, Kerastase, Moroccan Oil, and K18. You knew where to get great audio. Now you know where to get great hair care, too. Sephora, good news for great hair. Shop hair care now at Sephora.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to me talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
We're back in the Max List studio. I'm talking with Michelle Schafer. She's a certified professional coach and a workshop facilitator. Michelle helps you develop a job search strategy so you can find energizing work for companies you're excited to work with. She joins us from Ottawa, Canada. Now, Michelle, before the break, we talked about limiting beliefs, what they are, how they affect your job search, and you identified 3 of the most common limiting beliefs you see in your career coaching practice. And what I'd like to do now is talk about how to reframe those 3 common limiting beliefs. And let's walk through them one by one. The first example you shared of a common limiting belief was that others are too busy to help you with your job search. How do you reframe this, Michelle?
Yeah. The one key reminder with this one is just to remind yourself people actually do want to help. And I'm going to go on a limb here and say probably over 95% of the people that you ask actually will want to help. So don't be discouraged by, the 5 to 10% of people that maybe don't. And when I'm working with my clients, I use a bit of reverse psychology on them. And I say, especially when there's some resistance to going out and asking for conversations, I say, okay, let's say you're in advertising and somebody approaches you and says, oh, I'd really like to talk to you about, your career path, what kind of training and education that you took, how you found yourself on this road. Would you be able to meet with me? And I say, how would you respond? And usually people will say, well, yes, of course, I would help them out. So then I ask them the question, well, so, if you would help other people, wouldn't it be likely true that others would help you? Then the light bulb goes off for them and they realize that, yes, people actually will want to help because that's what they would want to do for other people. So even if somebody says no to your request for a coffee, you won't be any further behind in your search, but you could be very far ahead if they say yes.
What's striking about the example you share there is it's a very specific request. You're not asking someone to let you know if they hear of anything, a job perhaps, but you're approaching someone who's working in a specific field to ask specific questions about that occupation. What kind of difference does it make when you reach out to people and you're specific and clear in your ask?
It really, you get what you ask for. So when you're really clear with your request, you can get the specific information that's going to help your search. And I'll say this to clients, I say before you even reach out to somebody, first be clear on how it is that they want to help, how you need them to help them. But, also think about all of your questions. What kind of things would you want to get from that individual that will support and inform your job search? And the more that you can prepare and be clear about that when you're requesting, the better the conversation will be because you'll be receiving information that truly will be helpful to your search.
Your second example of a common limiting belief that you shared in the first segment was that the CEO or other top leaders of an organization are too busy to meet with you. How should you reframe this?
Yes. I mean, the reminder here is, these senior individuals, whether they're executive directors or CEOs or other positions within the organization, they're human and they want to help too. And chances are they had to do the same kind of networking activity for them to find work. So this one requires a bit of mustering up some courage because I mentioned earlier that this was one that I really struggled with in my own job search because I've been restructured twice. I've had to do a lot of networking as well. And I remember in particular, one individual I reached out to was the chief medical officer of health for Ottawa at that time. And I thought to myself, how can I reach out to this person? This person is responsible for every single medical crisis in the city. He's a busy guy. But I mustered up some courage and I did ask. And you know what? I didn't hear back for a couple of weeks. So I followed up. So, that's something to remember too. It's always okay to follow up after 2 or 3 weeks. Well, I was able to reach him then. And not only did he have a few minutes for me, he had 30 minutes for me. He asked me a number of questions. He took my resume. Because of that conversation, I got access to an opportunity with our public health unit. And it was one that was not posted. And I would have never known about that opportunity had it not been for my conversation with this individual. So I'm glad that I reached out. And it's a message that I have for clients now. Don't be afraid to reach out because these individuals are human and they do want to help. And I'll tell them that story as evidence and proof that, that limiting belief can be reframed into something really positive that can support your job search.
In your experience, Michelle, when a CEO or other top leader at an organization says no to a networking request, what's going on? Why do people say no?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people say no because maybe they feel that they're not the right individual to meet with the person. Maybe they truly are too busy. I mean, sometimes that happens where, a senior individual will go back to somebody and say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really quite occupied at this time. But, oftentimes still by asking, even if the response is, no, I'm not able to help you, oftentimes they will get connected to somebody else. So maybe somebody else in the organization that can provide provide some real insight into the challenges that the organization is facing and give that person an opportunity to ask some questions. So again, if we don't ask, we receive nothing. We are no further behind if the person says no. But if they say yes, we could receive so much information that maybe actually leads to a job down the road. And that's certainly something that's really positive.
Your third example of a common limiting belief was that people think they don't have a network. How do you recommend reframing this?
Yes, it's reminding yourself of all of the people that you interact with on a regular basis. And one of the really practical activities I go through with my clients as a starting place before developing any kind of networking strategy is to do a brainstorm. Do a brainstorm of all of the individuals that you interface with on a regular basis. And I don't just have people talk about this, I have them write it down. So, and we start actually with groups of people. So, people that you volunteer with, parents at your kids' school or kids' sports, neighbors, family members, friends, colleagues, former colleagues, leaders, former leaders, your stylist, your mechanic, people at the gym. Think of all of the groups of individuals, and then I have them take it one step further. For every group that they identified, now put some names beside that. So for example, if you do some volunteer work, think of all of the individuals that you do volunteer work with, make a list of those names, and then it gives you a place to actually start reaching out to people. So, individuals that I work with are oftentimes really surprised when they actually come up with that list of names. They start with that belief of, I don't have anybody in my network, to all of a sudden they have a list of maybe 30 or 40 names. Now they have a plan and they can actually start to action that plan.
So you've reframed your three of the most common limiting beliefs that you find out there as you work with job seekers. You recognize now that people will make time to talk with you, especially if you're specific about what you want. You're open to reaching out to top leaders and asking them for insights and advice. And you're also recognizing the network that you have. When you do all of this, Michelle, how is it going to help you find a job? What difference can reframing these common limiting beliefs make in your job search and in your career?
Absolutely. I mean, there's two key things. I mean, one is by reframing these beliefs, you are transforming your mindset from a place where all you can see is limitations to a place where you can actually see possibilities. So it's transforming the mindset from a negative place to a more positive place. And when we're in a positive mindset, we are open to opportunities. We are initiating conversations. We are seeking out leads to add to our lead funnel, and it's building more confidence for us along the way. So that's certainly area number one where I see the biggest benefits to individuals to reframe those beliefs. The second area is it's going to naturally allow you to identify opportunities that perhaps you wouldn't have known of before had you not reached out to individuals. And because we're really specific about our ask, maybe you're asking somebody to, give insight of the challenges of their organization or what their organization is like as a place to work, or, what kinds of opportunities might be available that really are good and align with their skills and experience. When we're clear about our ask, we receive information, we can receive job opportunities that, perhaps will allow us now to apply for a job we didn't know about, interview for a job that's really interesting to us, and maybe even secure that job. And I've seen that happen even through conversation where, a parent drops off their kid at a hockey game and they start talking to a parent about the fact that they're looking for work. And that parent is, a chief information officer at a high-tech company, which is where that person wants to work. I've actually seen it happen where people get jobs through these conversations. But, if we don't ask, if we don't reframe those limiting beliefs, we're really putting our big roadblock in our way, and those roadblocks will get in the way of not only our networking success, but our job search progression as well.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation. Michelle, now tell us what's next for you.
So some interesting projects I'm working on. I mean, certainly, I continue to offer career coaching. I help people, formulate what their career goals are and build a job search strategy to support them to find work that energizes them for a company that they, believes what they believe in. I call that my Simon Sinek why. But I'm also writing a book right now that's really geared to help people who are in any kind of career transition, whether you're deciding to transition careers or whether you've been restructured and the decision was not yours. So my launch is going to be in January 2025, and I'm looking forward to that launching soon.
Well, congratulations. And I know listeners can learn more about you, your work, and your forthcoming book by visiting your website, mschafercoaching.ca, and that you also invite listeners to connect with you on LinkedIn. And when they do reach out to you, I hope they mention they heard you on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Michelle, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about how to reframe your limiting beliefs in your job search?
Absolutely. I mean, if I can leave everybody with two quotes, one is, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you don't ask for a conversation or, a coffee with somebody, you're not going to receive anything. And the second one is, look through your network versus at it. It's a great way to help you see that your network is bigger than you think it is. And so if you remember those two things, I know that you will have networking success and you'll be able to identify lots of great opportunities.
Next week, our guest will be Nicole Serena Silver. She's the author of the Career Clarity Guidebook, The Key to Full Potential. Nicole also writes for Forbes on the future of work and professional development. It's painful to lose your job, but unemployment also creates opportunity. Join us next Wednesday when Nicole Serena Silver and I talk about why losing a job can be a gift. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton Hoff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry-Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer and editor is Matt Fiorillo. Dawn Mold creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.